I'm curious how long other men last. I was having a discussion with my friends about how I take care of myself before seeing a girl so I can last longer. Some of my other friends don't need to do that. If I did that, I would finish instantly. When guys talk about how long they last, do they just mean from the start to the end of sex? Because I can take a 5-second pause when I feel like finishing and prolong the experience. Then I can last from 15 to 45 minutes or whatever. But when I watch adult films, the men are just nonstop and not finishing. I try to replicate that motion when I'm alone, and it's impossible. I would finish if I continued, let alone with a woman. Are you guys able to just keep going and not finish? If so, is there something wrong with me? Thanks. Story 1. Pounding nonstop is a pornography thing. It's not real. They take breaks, change positions, and they also inject their penis with drugs to stay hard indefinitely. Most women don't want 45 minutes of pounding. They probably don't even want 15 minutes of pounding. I've found it's more about the intensity of the feeling, the pleasure, and finding the position and rhythm that helps your partner orgasm. That's where your attention should be. Story 2. Sex is not pornography. Pornography isn't a depiction of good sex. Don't use pornography to learn how to become better at sex. Not everybody gets aroused by the same things, and most women don't reach climax through just penetration. Don't treat her vagina like a sidewalk you're trying to break with a jackhammer. You're just going to hurt her, and if you pop out and thrust without realizing it, you can also hurt yourself. Look up broken penis. It's not fun. Slow down. Aim for quality, not quantity. I go about 5 to 10 minutes for penetrative sex. That's not including foreplay and aftercare. Most of all, if you want to get better at sex, don't talk to other men, talk to women. They're the ones you're trying to learn how to satisfy. Story 3. Straight intimate activity for 45 minutes? Are you a marathon runner? You don't need to do that. I don't even think a woman would want that for 45 minutes. Don't watch adult films to learn about intimacy. Story 4. Firstly, editing in adult films makes it seem like they last longer. My ex-girlfriend had a very high libido, was multi-orgasmic, and loved to be intimate for long periods. We were intimate at least twice every day, usually 3 times, so due to the frequency, I was able to go for up to an hour. I think my record was an hour and 20 minutes, and that was the 6th time we had been intimate in a 10-hour period that day. The spirit was willing, but the flesh was definitely spongy and bruised. Story 5. Pausing does not buy much time, unfortunately. I can pause 10 seconds, then go for 10 seconds, then pause for 10 seconds again, and so on. It's doable but not much fun. Story 6. But when I watch pornography, the men are just continuously engaging with the women and not finishing. Look me in the eyes when I tell you this. Pornography is not a depiction of real-life sex. The scene you watch is designed to look good, not to feel good for the actors. If they happen to enjoy it, fine, but it's about getting you to watch, not about them enjoying each other. The women are carefully prepared well in advance for penetration. The men use erectile dysfunction medications and or topical agents to enable lots of action with little enjoyment. Nothing is spontaneous. Everything is scripted. The men seeming to last 15 to 20 minutes of nonstop action is clever editing. There are plenty of breaks. The big finish is usually outside, visible so the audience can see, instead of inside where every other man on earth prefers to finish. Pornography is not a depiction of real-life sex. Story 7. Gay dude here. I have never seen a dude continuously pound and last more than 10 minutes in one position. Most dudes do well to get 2 to 3 minutes without exploding. My body count is about 500. Story 8. After being together nearly 15 years now, as long as I need to in order to get her off, usually I will climax with her. Simultaneous, passionate orgasms are the most beautiful thing in life. But if she reaches climax first, then I can finish in just a couple of minutes. Story 9. I am a 40-year-old male. About 10 minutes is the sweet spot for my wife and me. The total time for an average encounter is 30 minutes to an hour, depending on a bunch of variables. I haven't tried measuring pure endurance because I would exhaust my wife, and what is the fun in that? But I could probably go 20 to 30 minutes straight if I had to. Story 10. Depends on how much I like the girl or how much of an impression I want to leave on her. There was a time I dated my dream girl. I was head over heels about her. We took a drive out to a nice, secluded romantic hotel. As God is my witness, she took a worse beating than Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant. It was the kind of marathon that required a stack of pancakes, 5 eggs, and 3 coffees when the sun came out. I think I tore out my frenulum that night. The good times. Story 11. If you've been trying for 45 minutes and you both haven't finished, it's really not going as well as you might think. Real sex is not the same as pornography. I've never known any woman to just want prolonged pounding. It's great if sex lasts for hours, but that should include a lot of foreplay using the tongue, fingers, and all that good stuff. More of that than actual penetration. If the vaginal intercourse part goes over 10 to 15 minutes, a lot of women are going to get sore unless you're using lubrication. Natural lubrication doesn't last forever. And a sore vagina in the morning is not a strong indicator that she had a great time, contrary to what some guys might think. Story 12. Depends on what I'm doing. If I'm engaging from behind, 2 minutes. If we're doing missionary, my wife likes long, slow, deep thrusts. I'm not sure how long I could last like that. For now, I'll say undetermined. After my wife is satisfied, I continue for 3 to 5 minutes. Receiving oral sex takes a long time, and that's not just with my wife. I've always found it takes a long time. Most times, we just move on to intercourse. Story 13. Hey, I totally get where you're coming from with this. First off, remember pornography is to sex what action movies are to everyday life. It's pretty staged and not a realistic standard for how things go down. Most guys definitely need to take a little breather or switch things up to keep the show running longer. Trying to mimic non-stop action is like trying to keep up with professional stunts at home, cool to watch but not practical in real life. As for lasting start to finish, it's different for everyone, and those pauses definitely count since they're part of the whole experience. If you're looking to extend your playtime without hitting the pause button, it might be worth trying different techniques or even talking to a professional if it's bothering you. But honestly, it sounds like you're pretty normal to me. Just enjoy the moment and communicate with your partner. That's key. Story 14. You know that those porn scenes are filmed over hours, edited with breaks in between, then continue again, more breaks, and so on. I watched an interview of a porn star who talked about what it's really like. Many men can't maintain stamina because it takes so long to get the right camera angles, stop, start again, while having a group of people behind the scenes watching you. The final scene usually has to be filmed days later so that they can get the right shot. With all of that said, it all depends on your personal stamina. Your body may say keep going, but the rest of you may need a break. Continuously, I could possibly finish in a few minutes. Maybe 10 minutes, as I read that 11 minutes is the average. But with stops, changes in positions, and so on, it can go for 45 minutes to an hour. Masturbating, there are times when I can go indefinitely, pausing, stopping, and then starting again. But I usually make myself finish because I have to go to bed. Story 15. Saying you saw something in pornography is like saying you saw something in a movie. You wouldn't jump out of an office building because they did it in The Avengers, right? Same deal with pornography. Story 16. You do know some of your friends lie about how great they are, right? And porn is fake. They cut and start again. Also, they use medication to maintain an erection for a long time. If no woman has complained, do not let your buddies manipulate you. And position matters. Story 17. The more you have sex, the more you get used to it. In the past, I would go too long between sessions, so I finished quickly. Now that I have sex regularly, like 4 times a week for years, I can go forever. Story 18. Without pausing, I swear I barely last, maybe like 5 minutes. Especially when she wants me to go hard when she's close, it almost becomes a game of trying not to come before she does. With pausing, it can be much longer. I think the longest was like 30 minutes or something, excluding foreplay. Story 19. When I was 16, I was training about 3 hours per day. Basically, I lasted as long as I wanted. Endurance was insane. Now, a few minutes laughing out loud. Trying to fix that, though, due to health issues, I really lost my cardiovascular fitness severely. Story 20. In adult movies, they are shooting, reshooting, and editing scenes. Plus, using medications like Kamagra, Viagra, painkillers, cocaine, etc., so that they can last longer. Don't think that anything in there is like in a real situation, except if you use the aforementioned things. Story 21. Once in my life, I was able to go non-stop with an ex. I was somewhat attracted and somewhat turned off, which gave me a sort of anxiety during sex that prevented me from finishing easily, but she was also multi-orgasmic, which gave me a big sense of accomplishment, so she would just orgasm repeatedly and I would keep going. It was both amazing and terrible. Story 22. Please do not get your sex advice or belief on how sex was intended to be from pornography. Pornography is not at all what women really want. We want romance, love, gentleness, sweet nothings in ear, kissing all over, caressing, touching our bodies all over. You will satisfy a woman way more and have her desiring sex with you. Plus, she will follow your lead most likely if you do these things. This trashy pornography was designed to prey on and hurt men and relationships. The best sex I ever had involved these things. He held me close and moved slow and smooth with intention. This is probably how you will last longer, by changing the way you have sex, the tempo and style. Plus, you do not feel anything because when you go at a slow enough pace, a woman who understands her body can time pelvic floor exercises perfectly, which will make it feel even better. We can't time these exercises to being pounded for long periods, even if you just try to squeeze and hold. It does not last and does not mimic an orgasm, which is more of a tight relax pattern, not constant pressure. Most women in a relationship do not want their man watching pornography for this reason, and also because it's harmful for a man's physical and mental health. I am very happy to hear that watching pornography has not affected your erectile function, since many men will start to experience erectile dysfunction after long-term and frequent pornography use. I'm not trying to shame you. I just passionately hate pornography and feel it's an epidemic in America. I believe it's one of the biggest issues, way bigger than what we are focusing on now. Additionally, just wanted to add in case you want to have kids someday that rough, hard sex has been associated in a few studies with an increased risk of preeclampsia in pregnant women. I don't know if it's enough to prove as more of a fact, but thought it was interesting. Story 23. I can go as long as it takes. It's actually not good because often I can't come if I try to go over 10 minutes. Many women will be disappointed that they don't get me to a point of orgasm. It's kind of part of their pride that they get me off. I have found that I come more easily if they have. So if they don't come, I have more often than not also not come. So really the only time I can go is if I am trying to just come. Even then, I last 10 minutes minimum. Story 24. Well, we went several times yesterday, and I stopped the last time because I had brush burned myself badly enough that I thought I might realistically be bleeding inside of her. So, there is no time limit really, just as long as I'm willing to keep going. It takes about 20 to 25 minutes of sustained intercourse in a specific position where she's held firmly, so she cannot move to finish. Story 25. If I've had a few whiskeys, I can push rope for hours. I usually get the plug pulled before I can finish. But to be honest, I probably wouldn't, so that's fair. Story 26. I think they want a fast nut. It's like a badge of honor for them, but you have to make sure she gets hers first or you roll into a second helping. Otherwise, she will see it as weak or lame sex and label you as a two-pump chump. Talk about it and see what she says. It is really your best bet. Fishing for advice on Reddit is kind of a waste of time because everybody is different. You're going to get about every type of answer that's out there. Story 27, female here, and it's interesting to see the responses and the general consensus of time taken for guys to ejaculate. I was seeing a guy a few years back, and he had studied tantric sex. He was engaging for what felt like hours. I enjoyed it for the first 30 minutes, but after the first hour, he still hadn't ejaculated, and I was getting bored after that. I was extremely raw and tired too. A guy I've been seeing for the last 3 years usually lasts a good 15 to 20 minutes, depending on foreplay, toys, position, etc. However, the other night, he barely lasted 5 minutes. I felt a little put out, considering I didn't climax, but I've been reassured that he must have been so turned on he didn't last. Hopefully, that's true. Needless to say, original poster, don't use pornography as a reference for time taken. In my experience, 5 to 30 minutes is fairly accurate. and the rest of the comments largely follow that. For me personally, I'm always wanting more, but it has to be varied. I couldn't take 45 to 60 minutes of engagement. It hurts after a while. Story 28. I have idiopathic delayed ejaculation, so it can take me 90 to 120 minutes to finish. It's not as good as you think it is to be able to last that long. If my wife decides to stop due to soreness, which happens often, that means I don't get to ejaculate. Story 29. So if I keep in the mindset of lasting longer, I can usually go at least 10 to 15 minutes. However, if I'm quite drunk, I can go indefinitely. I think my record for nonstop while drunk was 2 hours. I have no clue how we did that. Story 30. First round is about 10 to 15 minutes. After that, it's much longer, up to 1 hour. Normally, we end up exhausted and just have a bit of pillow talk and then get back into it. Story 31. I usually focus on pleasing her first, preferably ensuring she climaxes at least once, so I feel good about what happens afterward. Then, I generally proceed slowly and try different rhythms. The woman I'm currently with has incredible endurance, so this phase can last about 5 to 10 minutes until I start feeling more excited. If I'm ready to climax, I will usually increase the pace, but if I'm not quite there yet, I take a break and return to pleasuring her manually. Once I'm ready, I return to penetration. Prioritizing rhythm over rapid movements is very effective. This cycle can last anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. Story 32. You realize a pornography scene takes 5 to 8 hours to shoot? We do a shot from one angle with penetration for 2 to 3 minutes, then cut and reposition from another angle. Then there are shots where it looks like penetration, but you are just pretending. Then wide shots, then facial expressions. These are all edited together to make it seem like a long, fully engaged scene that runs for 15 to 20 minutes. It's all fake. No one can last 20 minutes in real life, and no one wants to be drilled nonstop for that long either.